Lakey. Jimmy Lakey in the morning makes me feel alive. Woke me up this morning, now I'm up and on my way. Oh, 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 yeah, what a great way to start your day, the Lakey way.
Well, top of the morning, everybody. How's it happening? How's it happening? Monday. It's Monday. Pleasure to be here in black today, all in black, and I'm in black for a very important reason. I'd like you to see a new logo on my little shirt there. You see that? Anybody know what that logo is? I'll tell you in a minute. Don't rush me. Don't rush me. I'm glad to be here. I hope the black make my face wash out. You know, I am a cracker by all means, and maybe need a little suntan. I don't know, but all black today in ode to this little logo here on my shirt. It's I got a new contest, a new prize. I think I told producer Chad last evening. I think we're going to have to do. You've heard of the Michelin star ratings, in which the Michelin Tire Company back in the day, in a way to get people to come to use tires and drive, actually go further, they started giving away awards. Michelin star restaurants became a very big deal, still are a very big deal. That was created by the Michelin Tire Company as a way to get people to burn some rubber. That way they had to go buy new tires. They wanted to create demand on tires, and so they created the Michelin star. And I'm going to create the Lakey stars here starting today. I'll give you all the details in due course, but I want you to notice the new all black shirt. When I bought the shirt, they offered me another one. I said, the blue one? They said, that's Heather Gray's, sir. And I said, Heather Gray. Wasn't she a model? I don't know, but Heather Gray. I don't know what color Heather Gray is, but I said, you choose which one you think looks best on me, and they chose the black one. So here we are in the black one. All right, somebody says, now your glasses will match. Oh, we should try that. Delilah, get my glasses. See if we can find them. I don't know where the readers are at. Well, I've been traveling, and they're probably in my small carry-on bag, the backpack. That's probably where they're at, Delilah, so get over it. All right, see if you can find it. We'll try on the black glasses with the black shirt, and it'll be great. No one has passed away that I know of. I see the microphone is blocking the logo. We can't use them as a sponsor if we don't get the logo on there. I'll explain it all later. Everybody pay attention. All right, happy Monday, everybody. November the 3rd, year of our Lord, 2025. Pleasure to be here. The month of November, which is also a month we celebrate now we give thanks all month long because it's Thanksgiving. It's also the month of my birthday. Just throwing that out there. It is the date of the year of my birthday, the month of my birthday. So please celebrate and realize that very special things happen in November and December. The birth of our Lord and Savior, and that I was born in November. I mean, can I get I'm not blaspheming, I promise you. I'm just throwing that out there for your consideration. All right, let's dive into some topics here. Government shutdown still underway. I got a question for you. I mean this sincerely. I know I was talking to producer Chad. He has a daughter who actually works in the TSA, and he was talking about the impact, the paychecks, and the way that they're having to handle that, because she's now missed 2 paychecks in a row, and that's a big deal. But outside of that, have any of you that don't work for the government, have you noticed any impact of the Schumer shutdown? I was coming back from the airport late yesterday, and I had an Uber driver that picked me up and took me to the house of Lakey, and to the Lakey estate, actually. And so took me to the Lakey estate. I choose where I go. I went to the Lakey estate and walked in. But when I got in the car trying to strike up friendly conversation with the lady, I said, well, busy day for you? And she said, no, it's awful. I said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I said, looks kind of busy at the airport. She goes, no one's taking Uber. I said, oh, maybe everybody's just traveling for the not holiday season, the calm before the storm. She goes, no, it's a shutdown. And she said, this government shutdown has everything weird. Nobody's taking Uber. Everybody's got to save their money. I said, okay, that's interesting. And I started thinking, I said, wait, were that many Uber drivers being propped up by government workers? Were there that many people that just stopped taking Uber and Lyft because of the shutdown? I thought the logic was faulty, but I did not want to get into a discussion in the Uber driver with the person in a strange vehicle that might get angry and start wrecking the car. So I just said, oh, that's too bad, is all I said. But I started thinking of the logic all the way back to the Lakey estate. I said, I don't understand that. I mean, I understand that if you're like in Washington, D.C., and you're an Uber ride driver, but if you're just a random person out of the Denver International Airport, I can't believe that there's that many either government workers coming into town not taking Uber or people sitting around town saving money. Maybe I'm wrong. So correct me if I'm wrong. If that logic makes sense to you, I recognize I could be wrong. I could be incorrect, but it was just a very interesting concept that she was having about half the amount of rides on a Sunday that she normally gives in an Uber car because the government shut down. And I'm guessing by the tone of her voice, I didn't like it. The tone of her voice, I'm guessing it's Donald Trump's fault. I don't know. Maybe it's Schumer's fault or her. I don't know. But it was just a weird connection. And I'd like to hear if any of you have also say, no, Jimmy, it's not that weird. I run a bodega. I run a store. I drive for Lyft or whatever. And I've noticed a lack of traffic as well that could be attributed to the government shutdown. I don't see it. But again, you let me know. Feel free to comment in the chat rooms. I appreciate it all over the platforms. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we are all over the internet right now. We're on several Facebook feeds. Good morning to all of you on Facebook. We're on several YouTube feeds. Good morning to you. We're on one YouTube feed. That's Jimmy Lakey. That's one of our weakest platforms, the YouTube. YouTube is not one of our strong outlets. If you'd like to subscribe to YouTube or tell your friends about it, feel free to share it. That's not one of our biggest viewing points, but we do appreciate all the YouTubers that do watch us. Also, Rumble and the X feeds as well. We're out there, so we're on several platforms, and we appreciate, by the end of the day, thousands of earballs will hear this show, and we appreciate everybody who does hear the show. Your thoughts on the government shutdown? Have you been impacted? I'd love to hear your stories. I know producer Chad's daughter has been. We have a mutual friend that is a firefighter on a military base. He has been. He hasn't been paid, and he keeps going to work every week as he normally does. But how have you been impacted if you're not a government worker? Have you been impacted? Do the Uber drivers really get that impacted by this? I don't know. I just found that a curious thing, that the impact of people aren't traveling or taking Ubers. I guess with that in mind, does that mean we have fewer people leaving the airport, going to the airport? But the driver told me this around town, nobody's Ubering, and so I guess we have more drunk drivers on the street. I'm just curious as to the impact that this government shutdown is having to a lot of people, and let me know if you've seen that impact in your business. Love to hear from you. Comment in all the chat rooms. They do pop up. Anywhere you have comments on the screen, they will pop up on the screen, and we will get to see them, and we always appreciate the interaction. Indeed, we do. Government shutdown on the mix. President Trump was asked last night on the 60 Minutes, what are you doing to solve the government shutdown? What are you doing? The Democrats have been criticizing him for going out and looking after world peace and say he needs to come negotiate on opening the government. President Trump said, well, we have a bill. They are not voting for it. Basically, if the Democrats don't vote to open this soon, it's going to be their fault. Now, last week, President Trump floated the idea of a nuclear option. We'll talk about that in a second, but I do want to come back to this Trump on 60 Minutes topic. Did anybody watch that last night? I heard seen that it was going to be on. I saw that there was going to be a 60-minute special with President Trump being interviewed by, I forgot the lady, the reporter that was there. And I said, oh, that might be interesting, but it's 60 minutes, and I just don't know if I want the conflict in my life. I automatically thought it's going to be a crap interview with some gotcha questions and just a bad tone altogether. Not tough questions, but nasty questions. I just saw that, and I said, I don't want to watch it. And so last night, producer Chad and I were at the Lakey estate, and he had come over so we could watch some NFL football, Sunday night football. I'd just gotten back into town. Producer Chad came over, and we lit up cigars in the cigar room and enjoyed the game. And I'm watching it. It became a blowout. The Washington Commanders or the Washington Redskins were getting their hind ends kicked. And I said, this is kind of a boring game. So most of the volume was down. We just talked back and forth betwixt the two of us. And I totally forgot that Trump was on 60 Minutes. That might have been a good alternative. But what does that tell you about the branding of modern day news and the old stream news, that you really don't care what 60 Minutes has to say about anything? 60 Minutes has destroyed themselves. I know they have a new director at CBS. I knew a president at CBS. I'd like to give it a shot, and I do regret that I did not remember that Trump was on 60 Minutes last night, because I would have probably flipped over from the routing that we saw in that football game of the Seahawks kicking the hind end of the Washington Redskins. So anyway, if anybody watched the 60 Minutes last night, give us your impression of that as well. Love to hear from you if you watched it and what did you think of it. Trump last week urged the nuclear option on the government shutdown. Republicans have not been that receptive, and they are afraid that it would open up a can of worms. Remember, the Democrats opened up the nuclear option, which means you don't have to have a 60-vote majority to get to the main vote. You don't have to have that 60 votes. And they did that. Democrats did that during the Barry Hussein Obama era. They did that on judges because they didn't like that the Republicans were blocking some judicial nominations. And so old Harry Reid from Nevada, they broke the status quo, and he only had a 51% vote to get judges to the floor, and they got the judges through that Obama wanted. And that backfired them when Trump began to nominate people for the U.S. Supreme Court. And Democrats, I think, regretted using the nuclear option because Republicans weren't going to do it, but they had already changed the rules, and they just said, we're not going to change it back. We'll keep them the way you have them. And I think Republicans are pretty concerned that might happen again. If we change the rules, the Democrats will say, well, you broke precedent. We're going to keep the rules there that way. And eventually, Democrats will be able to do that, pass budget bills without that 60 vote majority to get through to get to the main floor. It's a pre-vote. You have to have the 60 votes to clear it for debate, and that's where the filibuster, if you will, comes in. Anyway, your thoughts on that? We'd love to get your take on that. I don't know. I need to do research. When did that rule come into place? It's not in the Constitution. When did it come into place? And I remember the days of Jimmy Stewart and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. There was no supermajority required. If you wanted to filibuster, you filibustered, and Jimmy Stewart did that famously in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington as he was exposing government corruption that even happened back in those days. So a filibuster to me in my head is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Jimmy Stewart on the floor of the Senate. Unfortunately, a filibuster today somehow has become a 60-vote majority, and you have to cool things down, they say. But unfortunately, that's gumming up the works, and people are not getting their paychecks right now. And Democrats have famously now said that the only leverage they have is that people are hurting and people are not going to get paid or get their SNAP or their welfare or whatever they get. So it's really a sad day. It's a sad use of people, I think, to get a political game on for a small spending bill that's actually just going to last a couple of months, a couple of weeks. It's actually the continuing resolution ends in less than 30 days anyway. So government shutdown continues. Give me your thoughts on whether or not it's making an impact on you or your neighbor, or maybe you're an Uber driver and you, like me, my driver, yesterday said that it's really hurting business and nobody's taking Uber. Everybody's walking to the airport. Everybody's going to the bars, getting drunk and going home. I just don't believe it. The Uber drivers are that affected by the government shutdown, but let me know if that is the case. All right, so what else do we have here? We have election day tomorrow. Have you filled out your ballot? I know a lot of my friends I've heard conversing over the last couple of days. This is the off year of the off year elections. So a lot of folks don't have, a lot of municipalities have elections. I have my ballot sitting at my house. I've got to fill it out. I have not done that yet. I'm usually Johnny on the spot, and I vote as quickly as that ballot comes in. But I'm going to be honest, in Colorado, I'm not even sure what's in the ballot. On the ballot, I'll read it through today, and I'll get that dropped off today at the drop-off center. If you're out of the state of Colorado, we do not really have in-person voting sites. We don't have any of those. It's all mail-in ballots, and so you got to mail this thing in. You can go and fill it out on the day of, but it's still not a polling place of tradition. So I got to get my ballot mailed in today. And I don't know what's on the ballot in Colorado because I don't think there's any precedent in anything pressing. I don't think I've seen one television ad for any kind of legislation. So I think we have a lot of municipalities wanting to raise bonds or, clear the leaves out of the street or something. So I'll look at my ballot today, but make sure you do vote wherever you're at. I always say sometimes we get all of our angst and ire pointed towards Washington, D.C., and we're like, God bless America. We hate these people. And we oftentimes forget that the real battle can happen in our backyard. And this is how I think conservatives have lost so much on the local level. The school boards would be a great example, is because while we're cursing at Nancy Pelosi, the leftist commies are running your school board and your curriculum and hiring that superintendent who's a real jackass and a jackwagon. So everybody get your ballot in, especially these high-profile seats in New York City. New Jersey, Virginia. These are high-profile races. A lot of us have more low-profile stuff going on, but everybody get your ballot in. I'll get mine in today. Make sure you do as well. All right, I got the black shirt on, right? I want to give you a clue as to why I have the black sweatshirt. I guess they called it a crew neck when I bought it. When I go to out of town, I always try to find the best place to smoke a fine cigar, a cigar establishment. In most places you go are local cigar lounges. Producer Chad and I happen to be members of a local cigar lounge, and that's where we actually met. And so we oftentimes meet up there for a fine stick, a little cigar. We're members of the private club there, so we do that in Colorado. But when I travel, I always go, people say, when you go to Vegas, do you gamble? No, I find cigar places, and I smoke cigars, and I people watch. So I was in Texas, as you know. I travel back and forth there dealing with my mother, who is up in years and aging, so I try to get there at least once a month to check in on her. And so I flew back in, and there's a couple of places that I go. One is a cigar lounge. There's local guys at the cigar lounge not far from the airport. It's a fantastic place. I got to tell you about that. It's going to intro Michael Letts with that introduction. There's another place that's further south, and it's called, I looked it up, and I didn't necessarily know about it because it's in a place I normally don't go. It's further south, but it's in a little town that when I lived there, it was a cow town. It's called Mansfield. And Mansfield, I don't know if they had running water, flushing toilets. I mean, it was out there. It was a farms town, but it was south of Arlington, and now it's all kind of grown together out there, and so you don't know where one begins and one ends. And I guess it's really grown up. So there was this place called, it's called Henry's Cigar Lounge in Mansfield, Texas. So the last trip I was there, I went to Henry's Cigar Lounge, and I saw it. I pulled up, and I realized it's connected to a steakhouse, like a very fine, I think it's called Meehan's Steakhouse, Chop House. And I'm like, well, this is nice. And there's a separate entrance. You go in. I walk in. It is this glorious, beautiful, large, big room. It's the size of a large restaurant. And it is cigar friendly. And they have a live music going on in the corner capability, grand pianos over there. And that thing, they have big screens up. So if they want to turn it into a sports lounge, and they have a beautiful humidor, and they bring you out a menu. And I'm like, this is heaven on earth. And I had the New York strip in the afternoon because I can, and I had a cigar. Proper gentlemen, if you cannot smoke a cigar while you eat a steak at the same time, you need to go back to gentleman school. So I went to Henry's Cigar Lounge, right, the first time, and I thought it was fantastic. And so this Friday I flew in. It was too late to go to where I needed to go see my mom. It was past the bedtime there, and so I went to Henry's. I dropped everything off at the hotel. Said, okay, what am I going to do? I got to have dinner. I said, I'm going to go to Henry's. So I took an Uber over to Henry's, and I got there. And for Halloween, while you were doing whatever you were doing, I was sitting in Henry's Cigar Lounge, which should be called Henry's Cigar Bar and Steakhouse. And I had a fine cigar. And I had a drink, and they had live music going on. I just watched some of the stuff on the television, and I relaxed. And I said, this is my happy place. If I ever move back to Texas, which I don't have intention to, I got to move next to Henry's or something like it. The next day, I took a little lunch break, and said, well, what would I have for lunch? Normally, I'd go get a Whataburger, but I said, no, I'm going to go get a small filet. And so I went over there and had it cooked medium rare, 6-ounce filet. They had a side of Brussels sprouts and a beautiful cheesy sauce. I don't know what it was. It was wonderful. Garlic cheesy. It looked like a hollandaise, but it wasn't. It was a garlic cheese base. And I ate that, and I said, this is a great way to have lunch. And then I realized that Henry's is actually open for breakfast. The guy that started the steakhouse owns a large construction company, and he wanted to have his own little plate in. And so he opened up and he opens for breakfast as well. So you can go there starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, have breakfast and a cigar, which I have not done yet. I'm going to vow to do that here real soon. So anyway, I saw the shirts, and I said, I want one of the shirts. And I talked to the manager, and Garrett, one of the tobacconists, is fantastic. He's one of the managers. Rogers, the big guy, he's there. So I'm talking to all of them. And I said, I want a shirt. I'm going to talk about you on the podcast. And I was flying home yesterday, and I said, you know what? We need an award. You have the Michelin Awards. Michelin created these awards so people drive to restaurants, and I want to give them, I think, I've got it. If you have nominations, let me know. I'll go try them out. But I think they should be the best cigar bar and steakhouse in America. There's not many, but there's some lounges that are great. I don't even call them a cigar lounge. It's fantastic. I'm going to give an award to them, and I don't know what that is except gracing them with my presence. All right. I'll talk more about Henry's in a minute. See the logo? Henry's the dog, by the way. That's the owner's dog. Mansfield, Texas, Henry Cigar Lounge. Go there, tell them Jimmy sent you. All right. They care. Now, Michael Letts is going to relate to this story. I go to another cigar place where I buy a lot of cigars from in Texas, and the owner walked in. I was already sitting there, and I'd lit up a cigar, and I'm just kind of hanging out. And he walks in, and he says something I had not heard in years since I left the state of Texas. The owner walked in. His name is John, and he said, "Well, look what the cat drug in." And I laughed. I had not heard the phrase, "look what the cat drug in" a heck of a long time. And it brings us to our question of the day. Can any of you think of these Southern sayings, or maybe just folksy sayings, whether from the South or not? Can anybody think of any more? Look what the cat drug in. Bless his heart. He didn't say bless his heart because I know what that would mean. That means that boy ain't bright. But I just want to ask you, I had not heard "look what the cat dragged in" look what the cat drug in, which is improper English, which makes it even more funny. So last night while producer Chad and I were bored of the football game, we were looking up Southern sayings that other people have. So that's your question of the day. What kind of folksy or Southern phrase do you remember growing up with? I remember being talked about being slapped to the middle of next week. I'll slap you to the middle of next week. I remember that. But look what the cat drug in. I think that's great. Ladies and gentlemen, looking what the cat drug in, I go to Michael Letts, and there he is.
You know, Jimmy, to tie it along with your theme, I hadn't heard that in the Coon's age.
I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that in a while. It is so funny. And what's funny is when you're in the South, and you know this, and I was raised in Texas as well, they just flow out of your mouth. You don't think about them. I watch Senator John Kennedy on Fox News sometimes, and they're all shocked that he has all these colloquialisms or folksy sayings. And he, like, does he rehearse? No, he doesn't rehearse at all. It's just who you are. You just talk that way. It's fantastic.
Your upbringing, it just sticks with you for life.
It does. And somehow I had not heard "look what the cat drug in" a heck of a long time. And that's just fantastic. Everybody, let us know yours. The Coon's age is a fun one. That's always a great one. All right, let's get down to business, Michael. By the way, if you have a nomination for the best cigar place, let me know. I'd love to hear it, because Henry's in Mansfield, Texas. Ooh, the cat can drag me in there anytime. I love it.
They say, Jimmy, we have a restaurant in Beaufort, South Carolina, that's haunted. And it has a cigar lounge there, and you can smoke cigars with some Confederate ghosts. So when you come to South Carolina, I will take you down there.
All right, producer Chad, Buford, we're coming. We're in hot pursuit. Hot pursuit. Buford, eat some food and smoke a cigar. Is there food there?
Oh yeah, best restaurant you've had in a long time.
Oh, that's an American place right there. And we can see Confederate ghosts. That's going to be fantastic. Buford. All right. I'm going to make a note here on my show sheet. All right. Let me talk to you, Michael. I was in Texas, as you heard, on Halloween evening. And if the terrorists would have had their way on Halloween evening, we would have been attacked here in America. But Friday morning, I woke up with a story, mentioned it, don't know the details of it yet. The Kash Patel said we squashed a terrorist attack that was in planning. Tell us about what was planned and what we know.
Oh, they're still generating some controversy. Let me tell you the surroundings of it, and your listeners can make up their own mind. But you know, Dearborn, Michigan is a hotbed for a Muslim community, and it's a hotbed for Islamic jihadists. I'm not stating anything. It's not a known factual event. We have had an awful lot of threats in that area, and so we intercepted with intel the discussions of Pumpkin Day, which obviously would have been Halloween. And before it, we're saying we need to all meet at the range so that we can practice quick reload for AK-47s. Well, you know, you can get an AK-47 that's a semi-automatic, but most of them are easily convertible into automatics. And that raised a huge red flag. And so we tracked it and decided that we would move in ahead of time to thwart any plans and activities. Now, what is the downside on this is we haven't made any charges yet because we're still doing intel, we're still doing searches and all. And so the defense attorneys are saying, well, if you just hear somebody saying something, but no action was taken, do you really have a case? And how come you haven't made the charges yet? And we think, you know, it's a PR stunt and not a real move. Here was my response on national news this morning, Jimmy. I'd much rather be sitting here talking about you now about the attempt was shut down, thwarted, and unsuccessful than I would be talking to you about the deaths of tens, 20s, 50 people killed in a terrorist threat, because we've had terrorist attacks come out of that area before, and saying, why didn't we do more? So I think the FBI did exactly the right thing. Like I said, the investigation is still ongoing. Charges have not been pressed yet, but they are in the making.
It's not just terrorists, but it's important we go back to how these people all got there. We have immigration, we have legal immigration in this country, but Barack Obama really started this off that they would find groups of people, whether from Haiti or from Ethiopia or whatever, and they'd say, oh, let's just move them all to one area. There's famously this town in Ohio that had a lot of Haitians that President Trump said they're eating up the cats, and the media went crazy. But a lot of locals said, yeah, I'm missing Fuzzy Kitty. I don't know what's happening. So figure it out. Ethiopians, for some reason, I guess, claimed asylum or came here legally, and they were all relocated to the Michigan area, Dearborn being one of those. And I think it brings up a point that how many of these people were given maybe refugee status and are let in the country, and were all of them properly vetted? And is there anything that we need to do to go back and start vetting some of these people that we know are living there on the streets? I've seen some political protests that supposedly happened in Dearborn, and you would think you were in Somalia or whatever. Somalia is probably more than Ethiopia, waving Somalian flags on the streets. There's not an American flag to be seen. They've turned parts of that into a third world country.
Well, you're exactly right. And the answer to the question that you raised, no, they weren't properly vetted at all. Most of them were not vetted, period. They were simply put together as a group and brought over because they had political support out of Barack Obama or out of Joe Biden. And they were just brought over here and never vetted and just placed in communities. So your suggestion is one that we were seriously taking a look at and going to follow through. Now, we need to go back and vet everyone of them, first of all.
Yeah.
Second thing, Jimmy, is this, and we're going to have to talk about it more. I know people are uncomfortable talking about it, but it's a fact of life. The Islamic jihadists, or the Muslim community, have one goal in mind. If you take a look at all of their videos and all, and they want to make America a Muslim state, they want to make Europe a Muslim state, they want a caliphate. And you've got a mayor that looks like he may get elected tomorrow, or candidate for mayor in New York, who is a strong proponent of Sharia and a strong Muslim. Here's the point. You take a look at Europe, especially England. I'm not so sure that they have any hope left. They're pretty much taking over, and they're running the show there. They want to do the same thing in the United States. And I don't believe that the vast majority, 75, 85% of Americans, do not support such a move. And we need to stop it in its tracks early instead of when we can't do it later on.
People in flyover country, or where you live or I live, we oftentimes look at some of these radicals of the squad and say, how did they get elected? And you figure out AOC, they're bad crap crazy in New York City. But you look at an Elon Omar, you look at just several of the other peoples of the squad. How do they get elected? It's because the Democrats influx these areas with radical jihadists at times, radical Islamists, and they start electing these types of people that don't like America, and these Somalia communities. I'm sure there's some real refugees that really wanted to come here for right reasons, but there's a heck of a lot of other people that showed up here because I guess it was Obama and even Biden wanted to flood the zone and turn these into. It really is baffling when you want to go, what was the motivation of the president at the time to do that? Because it makes no sense. Why would you ever do that?
Well, you're exactly right, because if you look through the historic part of it, they weren't being genocide. They weren't being oppressed. They don't qualify as political asylees, kind of like you have in Nigeria now with them, massacring the Christians over there. So why did we bring them all over? Well, we brought them over for one reason. I believe that it was part of the overall strategy to bring about riot and insurrection into this country and bring her down from within. And they've got a good foothold in the door. It's time that we push a little harder to get that foot out of the door.
Yeah. The voice of Michael Letts, investusa.org, investusa.org. If you're new to the program, Michael's with us regularly. We don't have a regular set time, but we oftentimes send up the bat signal. And like Gotham City, he comes running like Batman in his Batmobile. And here's Michael Letts again. If you're listening later in the day, you're not seeing on the screen, Michael Letts, investusa.org, because thousands of earballs will hear this show throughout the course of the next 24 hours, and they'll get to hear Michael Letts, but you may not see it. So Michael Letts, investusa.org. Michael, what is our solution here? We have, if we caught this one, Kash Patel, the FBI, said, okay, we've got some threats going on here that we need to take action on. They're investigating that further. I can't believe this is an anomaly. I can't believe this is something that's not still being talked about in other areas, or maybe the same Dearborn, Michigan area. It's out there. We do know that there's people that were on the terrorist watch list that got let into the country under Joe Biden, sure, and we have not found them. What's next?
Well, taking your questions, a couple of them that you raised, there's over 1,000 or 1,100 on the terrorist watch list that we know of that Joe Biden let in deliberately. We know that there's 120 and growing terrorist cells all across the country, not necessarily in New York or some big place, but small places all across the country. And yes, we know that they communicate among themselves. And so we know that they have one goal in mind, the terrorist cells, and that is to create terrorist strikes and attacks on this country, to bring us into fear, because they saw what happened with COVID. If America gets scared, we're willing to give up any rights to try to, figure out if somebody's going to protect us. And so they wanted to still feel in America that's coming. And that's why, regardless of the outcome, whether he has enough evidence to make this stick or not, what just happened in Dearborn, I commend Kash and I commend the FBI for being proactive now instead of being reactive. We've been reactive too long. It's time now to be proactive and start nipping these things in the bud.
One of my greatest, worries is that there's such a mess that has been created. It goes back to Obama, the Somalia input, and we talked about that, the Ethiopians as well. Some of these radical people have been let in the country, and then the influx across the southern border under Joe Biden, that President Trump only has 4 years to get this cleaned up, and we're almost now to 3 years left in his term, that the problem is so big that we're not going to have enough time to get it cleaned up. And all they have to do is embed themselves or hide out and stay under the radar long enough, and Trump goes bye-bye. And we as an American people still have the same mindset that allowed Biden and Obama to do what they've done to us already. Am I justified in that? How do we get as much done and this cleaned up and set back on the right path in the next 3 years? Because unfortunately, that's all we have with President Trump coming soon.
So you're very justified in what your concern is, Jimmy. And that's why we're pressing very hard for the president. And that's why we're talking about using military assistance. And even you heard last week in his address to the troops in Japan, even active military if necessary. We have got to secure our country from within. And we're going to make sure that, and he's active as judges. It's just mind-boggling to me. Now you've got Judge Boasberg. You remember Boasberg?
Yeah.
The one who, he now signed off on subpoenaing all these records unbeknownst to congressional and senatorial members of Congress, Republicans only, by the way. And it's time that we start taking people like that and locking them up first, giving them trials later. We have got to take some bold action. I know Americans get a little bit edgy when we talk about bold action, but folks, we've sat back so long that they've got a good infrastructure in place now, and they will defeat us if we don't take bold action to make sure it doesn't happen.
The oath of office to serve is you protect the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. And President Trump has obviously shown great wherewithal in foreign policy and stopping wars that other people thought couldn't be stopped. The old John Kerry and those types, those battles went on forever. And Donald Trump in 9 months has stopped all those. But China's a threat. We get Vladimir Putin's a bad dude, but there has to be some emphasis, and America has to wake up to the threat, not outside of our border. We know that's China. We know that's Russia. We know that's these terrorists out there, but we have domestic enemies here that have come across the border or raised up in politics, and we've got to deal with that. Or first of all, these politicians, if we don't deal with it, are not fulfilling their oath of office. And if we don't fulfill that part of the oath of office, we're literally doomed. I mean, we don't have to have a foreign invader. Putin doesn't have to send missiles over. China doesn't have to do anything if we don't root out the domestic enemies as well. And that is part of our Constitution.
No, you're exactly right. That's what this whole presidency is about. Is the Constitution one of the first things it guarantees is to provide for the common defense. I can't defend you, Jimmy, if I'm going to let a bunch of terrorists live next to you and take you out before I can get there. It just doesn't work that way. It's time we as Americans realize that we are under war. We have been under war for some time now by outside forces coming within our country, establishing what we call forward operating bases, and getting prepared to launch major attacks. We've predicted before. We still have the same position. We expect more attacks to be coming, Jimmy. And we were fortunate this time to catch this one. We may not be quite as fortunate the next time around.
You probably know better than I. Remember after 9/11, we had this code. The airports were at code yellow, or they were code green, or they were code red, and they got rid of that system. And that's it's okay that they did. It probably wasn't the most effective way to convey that. From what you know of what's happening in America in politics with the FBI and what they're watching, they caught this chatter from Dearborn, Michigan. Are we operating at a code red, a code orange? I mean, how serious is the threat? Is it imminent if something doesn't happen? I mean, this isn't just something you and I are talking about for no reason.
We're operating within a law enforcement community, within a military community. We're operating a full-scale high alert because of the fact we do think there are threats that are very imminent now, and they've been demonstrating that. They've been doing that through trying to make it look like it's for a justifiable cause, going after ICE or trying to say that guy beat up a little kid who was just begging for some food or this or that or the other. America is not buying those stories, but they don't know that. They still think that they're providing a great front and they're coalescing all their forces together. We see that happening on a day-to-day basis in Intel, and we know that they're preparing to launch some major strikes across this country. And we're doing everything we can now to be at a high state of alert to try to go ahead and intercept those before they become reality.
Well, I hope to God it doesn't take another 9/11 for America to wake up and go, wow, how those people get in their country. But unfortunately, that could very well be the possibility. Everybody be praying for your law enforcement or FBI, the investigators, as they pick up more chatter and let the screening begin of all these refugees, air quotes, that were led in the country unscreened. And really would like as you said, we're sent here to establish a forward operating outpost for Islamic terrorists overseas. And we got to wake up to that. Michael Letts, we're heading into the holiday season, the final 60 days or so of the year. It's a great time, first of all, for people to get a tax donation, but it's also a great day to give a gift to a law enforcement officer and his family by protective gear, and that's what investusa.org does. Give us the information for new people that don't know what you do, and how can folks contribute?
Well, we want to make sure every officer has an active shooter vest. That's the most protective vest that is available on the market. 90% of them do not have that. And quite frankly, just as you said, Jimmy, we're going into Christmas time. These officers have the right to spend it with their kids. They have the right to be able to be home, to be alive for their children. So if you can make any kind of donation is appreciated. We're trying to send the message to law enforcement across the country. They're under the biggest threat they've ever been. You know, the Southern cartels in Mexico have a $10,000 per head bounty on them. And so they're doing a job that's very dangerous. They need our support to show that we're going to protect them. Go to investusa.org. Get your charity.org. Make a contribution of whatever amount you can. Let them know that during this holiday season, they're on our mind. We support them. We have their back like they have ours.
Unfortunately, the atmosphere we live in, if we don't get them protected and do all the policy stuff you and I are talking about, some of these law enforcement officers won't be at home this Christmas if we don't take this seriously. And that's what everybody should do. Investusa.org, investusa.org. We talk about charities a lot. We talk about my charity, but this is an important one for you to give to. Investusa.org as you're looking at your end of year giving. Please remember, Michael, that's investusa.org. And those vests and protective gear very important, and to let a law enforcement agent or officer, federal, local, you get statewide, let them go home for Christmas this Christmas season. Investusa.org. Michael Letts, it's a pleasure. Again, Beaufort, South Carolina, you said?
That is. In fact, well, I've got your number. I'll be sending you all the information. Find out when you're coming.
Producer Chad and I are on this because we're always looking for good food. Producer Chad's a great chef, but we're looking for good food and an opportunity to smoke cigars and to see Michael Letts. Yeah, that's a bonus right there.
You got it. And to see the ghost figures from the Confederacy. They may decide to come sit down and smoke a cigar with you. You never can tell. It's a great war story.
These ghost figures, are they? I mean, they seemingly appear regularly, or is it just something that somebody saw once?
No, they seemingly appear regularly. We have guests every week that swear that they can see them. You know, things happen at night. Suddenly, the ovens come on. Nobody's there. They're all shut off for their. All kind of weird things happen in that place. And that is a place that we used during the Confederacy as a hospital for wounded Confederate soldiers.
Wow. So it is actually has some history there. And good Southern food, I'm guessing, is a steakhouse. What kind of food we got there?
Steakhouse.
Oh, good Lord in heaven. Producer Chad, let's just stop the show now. Get the plate. Let's go. We're out of here. Beaufort, South Carolina. Michael Letts, we're going to get on this because maybe we have to do regions, best cigar steakhouse in regions, because
I think so.
I got Texas locked up here with Henry's on my shirt, and yeah, we're gonna go see some ghosts. Producer Chad, you can stay the night and film anything that happens there in that thing. I'll go to the hotel. I ain't staying the night there. No, thank you. InvestUSA.org. Maybe I would. I don't know. But drink enough. InvestUSA.org. InvestUSA.org. I appreciate you, Michael Letts. Thanks for being on the show. We'll talk again probably this week or next. Sometime soon we'll chat again. InvestUSA.org. All right, we got a question of the day going on here, and if you'd like to have a question of the answer, an answer of the day, feel free to jump into the scene. We'd love to hear from all of you. The question of the day is this: what are some what are they called? Colloquialisms, which I can't spell, or sayings, maybe from the South. And if you're just joining us, this all started because I walked into an establishment in the Dallas area. And I just saw that producer Chad has "Look What the Cat Drug In" is my title there. I wondered what that said today. And that was what I was greeted with at this cigar establishment where I buy some great cigars at a great discount. They have some great hand-rolled cigars there. So I went in there and I walked in and sat down, waited for the owner. He was out in the parking lot. I saw him dealing with something and out front of the store. So I just kind of snuck in, sat down in one of the fine leather chairs. And he walked in and said, "Well, look what the cat drug in." And I thought that was, I've heard that my whole life, but I haven't heard it in a long time. And it caused us to start wondering about some of these Southern sayings or other folksy sayings that you might have grown up with. And while Michael was talking, I know a lot of you were opining of some of these things. Or Lois says, "That's how the cow ate the cabbage." That was one my mom always used. I would tell her how the cow ate the cabbage. It's just so obvious how the cow ate the cabbage. But when you say it with the right emphasis or emphasis, depending on how you want to say emphasis, it has a whole different meaning. Look what the cat drug in. If you say it's just funny. There's just so many of these that are out there. Somebody says when they were as a teenager taking 10 minutes to do a 1 minute job, stop going through the horse's ass to pull its tooth. Now, I've never heard that one, and that's kind of weird. But no, I've not heard that one. I've not heard that. Finest frog hairs. I saw that just a moment ago, which, frogs don't have hairs, I don't think. So that, anyway, any of these things you grew up on, and how many of you, knee high to a grasshopper. That boy ain't knee high to a grasshopper. If you, telling you, I can hear my grandparents or my aunts and uncles saying these things to this day. There's one from Craig from YouTube that says she could start an argument in an empty house. I haven't heard that one, but that's probably true. Madder than an old wet hen. Oh, Scott, that's one I do remember. She's madder than an old wet hen. That's another one. There are a lot of different sayings out there that unfortunately I don't remember all of them. Producer Chad and I were going through some. I was looking some up last night to stir my memory, having grown up as a Southern boy. Dallas is still the South. Don't believe me, it's still the South. I know some people argue that's not really the South. That's not the deep South. Well, it's still the South. Okay, so we say a lot of these things, and there's some good accents down there as well, which I don't have. I never tried to lose an accent. I just lost it. I don't know what happened. But I tell you, it's fun to hear some of these sayings, and I hear some of them said. It brings back a lot of good memories. So give us yours. What's the best one that you can think? I think I saw somebody earlier say "happy as a pig in mud." Yeah, happy as a pig in a pigsty, something like that. You get that madder than the old wet hen. Uh, somebody's put, I think it was Scott. I was kind of scrolling through my screen over here that I missed. Worthless is gum on a heel boot. Gum on a heel boot. Boot heel. Boot heel. Boot heel. Okay, boot heel. Sorry, I don't have my readers. Do we have my readers yet, Delilah? I should try these out. I bet they'd work very well. All right. Good to have all of you here. Keep those things coming. We love the colloquialisms out there. And feel free to let us know exactly what it is. Maybe a saying that you grew up and you hadn't thought of in a while, but you hadn't thought of for a while, and maybe they're bringing back memories. Kevin says, if someone asks how you are, you say better than I deserve. You do. Now, Dave Ramsey says that on his radio show all the time. And he's kind of brought that back, but he's a Southern guy as well. But if you say it with the right tone, it means different. You know, Dave Ramsey, better than I deserve. If you ask a good Southern person, how you doing? Well, I'm blessed and highly favored, doing better than I deserve. You throw that in there, blessed and highly favored, you're going to have church and the tent revival is going to break out. That's what's going to happen. I'm just warning you Southern people out there that that's what's going to happen. Or you Northern people, that if you hear somebody say, I'm better than I deserve, blessed and highly favored, they say that, get your handkerchief out there. They're going to pass a plate, have a collection, and they're going to be a revival down at the local tent on the corner. And if you don't know what a tent revival is, then you probably didn't grow up in the South. You probably did not. All right, good to have all of you here on this show. These are all bringing back some fun memories out there. Question of the day, what are some of the sayings out there that you remember or you have said before and maybe have gone to the wayside, but you know they're still out there? And how many of you still use these? That's the kicker. This guy just casually walked in and said, look what the cat drug in. And just, that was off. This guy's the size of a professional football player. Okay, he is a big guy, and he owns a cigar shop, and he might have played football for all I know. And that's the first thing he said, look what the cat drug in. And that he said it with such, didn't even ponder, didn't even think about it. And I thought it was funny. That's what he said. All right, good to have all of you here on the program. It's the Lakey Unleashed program. Let's dive into a couple of more news stories. Did anybody watch the 60-minute interview yesterday? I did not. Producer Chad and I kind of forgot that it was on there as we were watching a football game, and that we ended up talking more about Southern sayings because that was more interesting, because the football game was out of hand as the Redskins were getting their heinies kicked by the Seahawks of Seattle. And I just didn't find that much interest in that game. But I forgot that 60 Minutes was on there, because I'd like to get your take. Was it a fair? I think it was Nora O'Donnell or somebody that was the interviewette, the reporterette that did it. And CBS is really supposedly trying to change the error of their ways. They're trying to get back on the straight and narrow. They've hired a new president of CBS News, and that person is going to be supposedly setting things straight, making it more fair. I don't need them to be conservative. I just want them to be fair. I wish that there was somebody that wasn't a propaganda machine. I sometimes can't watch. Well, if I'm watching like a Hannity or a Waters, I know their angle. But I'd like there to just be a news show that just was news, and I didn't have to worry about bias or spin, and they could just be straight down the middle, or at least mostly down the middle. I would like that. I think that would be very good. And an interview session like 60 Minutes, that's going to be, if Trump goes on Hannity, you know that there's not going to be any, quote, gotcha questions, or tough questions, if you will. And that's fine, because you know the angle, the direction that Hannity's coming from. But if Trump goes on, let's say Brett Baer, I'm going to trust Brett Baer to ask some tougher questions, which I'm totally fine with, and really dive down and push on some answers. I think that's good. And I wish that all networks had that. You can have some opinion shows. You're going to have some shows that that person's a whack job, or that person's a wing nut, or that person's whoever. But I think it's just healthy that we have people that will be able to ask questions, and CBS has not had that. CBS has had people that were obviously biased. So I will ask you, did you watch 60 Minutes last night? How was the interview? And if any of you have been watching 60 Minutes, let's say over the past 30 days, have you started to notice any kind of difference in their coverage and in the way that they are covering the president and or interviewing the president? So I didn't watch it. I'll go back maybe and watch it today. The interview, I saw a snippet of it, and she asked if going after Comey and John Bolton. Are these political retributions? And he said, I don't even know what they did, but it sounds like they did bad things. The answer I heard and the way she asked the question, I thought it was fair. Again, it could have been out of context. I'd like to go back and get the context. But Trump was on 60 Minutes last night. Who watched it and who even knew it? And has anybody been watching CBS News and noticed anything different? I think that would be something to just get your opinion on, because maybe you give 60 Minutes and or CBS News another chance, and maybe they're going to rework that reputation. Chris says on one of the Facebook feeds, colder than a well digger's ass. Yeah, I've heard that one before. You look so good, I want to mop you up with a biscuit. Wow, Dave thought we were talking about pickup lines at the bar. Can you imagine go to the bar in the South? You look so good, I want to mop you up with a biscuit, baby. I don't know. I don't even know how that would work, honestly, but God bless you. No, that's good. We could also do something. I've heard something about biscuits and mop you up, but I didn't remember it to be a pickup line. We talked about the well digger's ass he just did. Wasn't there one, and I don't mean to be graphic, but wasn't there one that was pretty often said in the South, and maybe it's everywhere? It was about a witch's teat, a breasticle. It was colder than a witch's, tit is what the word was. Sorry I think that was a very regularly said one. I remember it. I don't remember I don't know what the reference was, but I think it was kind of like the colder than a well digger's hind end. That's what it is. You're finer than a new set of tires. What? We've now gone to pickup lines. We've now got all the guys are out there going, yeah, you finer than a new set of tires. I bet that gets you chicks all the time. I bet that's going to really get you some women there. If you go up and say, you're better than a new set of tires. Yeah, I don't think that's a great pickup line, honestly. I don't think that. All right, anybody watch 60 Minutes? Let us know. Would love to hear from you on that. Let's see, we got lots of other stories, but we're going to have to get to some of them tomorrow. This is the big kickoff week, for our charity, fundraising era. We're talking about Invest USA, Michael Lett's organization. As you watch this show, all of you are blessed and highly favored, as we like to say. And you are all blessed, more blessed than the poorest person probably out there in the world. And some of you can donate big money to charity. Some of you just small amounts of money. But every amount counts. And I want to remind you not just of our charity throughout the next 60 days as we head to year-end giving, but I'm going to make sure you give to Invest USA. Tomorrow, Laura Carno's on the program, fastercolorado.org. But the next several days, we're going to start telling great stories from Rivers Promise and letting you know exactly some of the great things that we're doing and we want you to partner with. We have not announced this really publicly, but we have right now, through Rivers Promise, over $300,000 of matching funds. It's said over here that we need to match it so that we can access that. And what that $350,000, if we activate that, will do is it will finish up our K-6 campus. That money is on the table, and we have already raised about $50,000 of that that's going to be matched. And so you get there. And so it's going to get us right in there. But when we match it, it's going to get us right about that $700,000 mark, and that's going to complete the building of our K-6 campus. I was talking to someone last week. They said, how's that going to complete all that? Because it's a lot cheaper to construct there, and we're not cutting corners, labor cost, material cost, just cheaper. It's a third world country, so it's not American prices, and it's just a different world. And so I really want to ask you over the next couple of days that if you're one of those persons out there, and again, if it's $100 and you mark it towards our Legacy Christian Academy Building Fund, that $100 will, the next 30 days, become $200. If you write $1,000 check or $1,000 donation and it goes towards our building fund, a capital expense, then that $1,000 becomes $2,000. We have right now, we have it's been sitting there. We haven't announced it that much publicly, but we have $300 and something thousand sitting there in matching funds that we can access from the donor if we raise the other part of it, and that will get us completed our K-6 campus. And immediately then we're going to turn to our our high school campus, a seventh grade through 12th grade campus. We'll start on that, but we got to finish this first campus up. And over the next few weeks and days, as we go to year-end giving, I'm going to ask all of you to look in your heart and see what it is you feel passionate about doing. And again, maybe you don't feel passionate about Rivers Promise, but you like Laura Carno's charity that work. That's fine. Let's all find a way to be generous and kind of have our own Giving Tuesday community, if you will. So I'm going to be giving you stories from Rivers Promise. I'd love for you to participate with us. And I'll get maybe that $350,000. Oh my God, I can't do that. Well, $10 becomes $20 in that fund, but maybe it's just a $10 gift. Maybe it's a $10 recurring gift. $10 will provide a school uniform. We're going to be buying hundreds of pairs of shoes that we give away for Christmas. That's going to be about $20 to $25 a pair of shoes that we give away to kids who have one pair of shoes and they wear them year round, all day round. They're the shoes we gave them last year, and we have to replace them at least once a year. That's about $20 to $25. $30 feeds a child that doesn't have a sponsor for 2 meals a day for an entire month. $65 gives them health insurance, does all the things that we aforementioned. That for $65 every month we spend that. So I want you to just kind of reach in your heart and begin to consider what it is that you could do to partner with us. Again, the final 60-day countdown of the year, riverspromise.org. And if you like building buildings, and whether it's a small gift or maybe you're one of those people that could write a $10,000, $20,000 check, listen, it will become $40,000. It will double because we have matching funds right there. Consider it. And we'll be talking more about ways to give in this charitable season over the next several weeks. And as we're here together, and I'll be doing some of the shows this month later on from Rwanda and into early December. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this up with the meme roulette. It's time to steal the memes from all around the globe. And if the cat drug me in, the cat's about to drag me out after we're done with this. But ladies and gentlemen, I pick up the symbol of power and reach that this program has, and just how far it is, the symbol of how far we'll go to steal a meme. We'll go around the globe, and we'll do it, and we're doing that now. Before I do the meme section, I want to be reminded, now that I've got your attention, you're going to pay attention to the memes. That was a tease. Homes with Sherry. Sherry Cree is our great sponsor, a great sponsor of the show, and she's one of our most faithful sponsors, and we appreciate her every month. Listen, I know holiday season's here, and you're thinking, I got to list the house now. Well, you want to get it sold next year, right? So go ahead and have those pre-meetings, get some things rolling towards that. It's never too early to strategize when it comes to selling a home or making or buying a home. Never too early to strategize. Maybe something you're going to pay attention to more January or February. Have the prelim meeting now. Have a pregame session just so you kind of hit the ground running as quickly as possible. And when other people are just now buckling their pants back up from overstuffing with turkey and presents and cake and things that they did over the holiday season, you're ready to rock and roll, and you're ready to make that transaction the business transaction you want. Real estate is the one thing that you have in life that can create generational wealth, and you're probably not even thinking of it that way. Sherry will think of it that way with you. If you're military, veteran, first responders, she'll take a discount on her own commission to make it more affordable for you. Also, anybody who closes a home, she takes a portion of her commission and she donates it to the charity of your choice. And so please, if you would, go to homeswithsherry.com. Schedule an appointment. The phone call is all it takes. Maybe a cup of coffee. Talk about your buying, your selling, where you want to go, and she can start kind of getting the plan together for you, even while you're preparing for the holidays. She can kind of start working on your behalf if you choose to employ her to do so as your realtor. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. Be sure to mention Jimmy Lakey when you reach out. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, Linda asked the question there in the chat room, are you in with Colorado Gives Day? We are not officially on their website. We have been before, but in order to submit the things that they're due in March or April, and a lot of times because we're so small and we rely on volunteers, our documents are not ready by March or April because we're a little slow, but we're 501c3. And honestly, the times that we put in all the effort and energy, it's a lot of hoopla to get on the Colorado Gives Day website. We did not see one donation. We had a lot of our donors who just come to us directly. We didn't see one donation off of it. We put a lot of work, time, effort, and energy a couple of years in a row to do it. And I was talking to someone that's on our board that's focused on fundraising, and she is going to be looking into getting us back on there. We have not had success with it before, but we're looking at it. This year you won't see us there, but we're going to be out there and let you know. And also Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday happens, I think, before Colorado Gives Day, and that's a national day. Anyway, so outside of the state, people are going, what's Colorado Gives Day? Colorado doing the same thing that National Give Day is, except they have their own website and supposedly matching funds at a certain level. All right, good to have you out there. Question of the day, uglier than mud on a fence is the answer of the day. So you guys got a lot to say. Wild horses couldn't drag me away. I've heard that one. Wild horses couldn't drag me away from you, baby. I guess it was a romantic line. Maybe it's you like your job so much. All right, here we go. Ready? Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Oh, God, I should have had the readers on in this, so I got to pull this back up. Grandma, I got to wait for the screen to clear now. Grandma said in her day she did 3 times the work you do today. In Grandma's day, they had cocaine and sodas. There's that. Yeah, that's true. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. The nightmare is over. Supreme Court has outlawed candy corn. We stole that one from the Babylon Bee. Anybody eat any candy corn this holiday season? I did not. Did not have a dose of candy corn. Not one. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. I love turning the clock back so it gets dark by 4 p.m. Said no one ever. I saw today that people say they want to get rid of daylight savings times. No, I want to keep daylight savings times. Daylight savings, especially in Colorado where I reside, saves us for a lot of pain, because what you don't understand, Flatlanders don't understand, is about 4 to 4:30 p.m. tonight, the sun will drop behind the mountains and it gets dark here earlier. So you say, well, it's not that bad when we're not on daylight savings time. We still it gets dark at 6 or so. No, it doesn't. It's dark by 4:30, the peak of winter here. It's miserable. And so we need to be on daylight savings times here in Colorado. What you do in your lame state, I don't care. But this fidgeting like a monkey with a clock, forward and backwards, that's a politician. And the fact that politicians won't change that shows that your politicians are out of touch, and they're idiots. That's what they are. Yeah, nobody wants to see it dark at 4:30. And yet by 5 o'clock tonight, I'm guessing a couple of weeks, if not by tonight, 4:35, it's going to be pitch black here in Colorado. And that's because we got these things called mountains that block the sun, and we get dark earlier than it should here. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Income tax, the fine you pay for being productive. Welfare, the reward you get for being unproductive. Yes, that's it. I like it. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. There's old Chuck Schumer, Babylon Bee, headline, embarrassed Democrats admit they can't remember why they shut down the government. To save Chuck Schumer's job, I think, to save him from a primary challenge. Democrats, why don't you shut down the government for health care for everybody? Well, if you open, it's a continuing resolution. If you open it for health care, then that's only going to last 4 weeks. If you want to fight a battle for health care for whatever reason, won't you want to fight that in the main budget battle, not in the continuing resolution? The continuing resolution is only an act for a certain limited period of time. So they're not in this for health care. They're in this for chaos. Round around the globe we go. Where you steal the memes from, no one knows. There's nothing like taking a drag from your candy cigarette after a long, hard night of trick-or-treating. What's that kid dressed up as? The costume looks like he's maybe vomited on himself. I don't know. Do they still make candy cigarettes at all? If they do, and if I'm home on Halloween, I'm going to give out candy cigarettes. Just for the fun of it. Forget the full-size Three Musketeers bar. Candies, you get candy cigarettes. Everybody gets candy cigarettes. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Whoa! World. All around the globe and from China. That's the last place we search. And China has said, doing. We've read all the memes. That's all we got. Ladies and gentlemen, been a pleasure to be a part of the show. Don't forget our charity work out there. Tomorrow, Laura Carno should be back with us. That's and Carno was not able to reschedule. Carno's back on tomorrow. Isn't that exciting for everybody? Everybody say yes, sir. It is. Hey, until we meet again tomorrow, don't forget Henry's Cigar Lounge in Mansfield, Texas. If you go to Texas now, anytime in the near future, and you don't go to Henry's, I don't think you love America. I don't think you do. Beaufort, South Carolina. Booking my ticket now. A little cigar. Oh, that sounds so delicious. Confederate Ghost. Oh, that's going to be an exciting adventure for producer Chad and I. Hey, God bless you. May God bless America. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Until then, Peace. I'm out of here.